And now it's time for the WHGT World News featured interview. When the acclaimed wildlife artist Sally Middleton met Eustace Conway, she described him as the most interesting man I have ever met. Although Conway holds degrees in English and anthropology, he describes nature as his classroom. Like Henry David Thoreau, Conway is a committed individualist who cherishes his communion with life and nature. He's hiked the entire Appalachian Trail, canoed the Mississippi River, backpacked across thousands of miles in North and Central America, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. He spent 17 years living in an Indian teepee, worn buckskin clothes he made himself, and treated his own serious injuries using plant medicine. Should it come as any surprise to us that such a resourceful and fiercely independent man committed to self-sufficiency and living off the grid would come into conflict with bureaucrats who live to regiment other people's lives? Today we have the privilege of letting Mr. Conway describe his ongoing struggle to retain possession of the Turtle Island Preserve near Boone, North Carolina. Mr. Conway, what is the Turtle Island Preserve and why did you create it?
Turtle Island is a nonprofit education center for enriching people's lives, making the world a healthier place and more meaningful for the people that come and learn at Turtle Island. It's a wildlife preserve and education center that's a little different than your normal education center.
Now, what sets it apart from what you would say a normal education center?
Well, it's set apart by being way out in the forest, miles from neighbors and other houses. It's a wildlife preserve, and when you go there, it's non-electrical. Everything is back the way it was hundreds of years ago, and so you see old-timey buildings that we've built just by hand that are set up on rock foundations. And our style of education is like no books, no paperwork, no homework. You just put your hands on things and do it yourself, like you really build the log cabin. You really rub two sticks together to make fire. You don't just talk about it. It's not just theory. It's like, this is how you do it. Now, let's do it.
So this is really a hands-on approach to understanding the history of the Appalachian culture?
Yeah, not just the Appalachian culture, but all humanity. You know, basically we work with human skills that span every continent and through all time.
Now, last September, a large contingent of the government officials raided your property. Can you describe for us what exactly happened?
That was quite a shock. These guys showed up with a search warrant and came in miles and miles down the road. Our property is miles from the state road, and then miles back into our property, and sort of blocked our entrance with a large caravan of taxpayers' vehicles. And they spent half a day going through everything we have and looking apparently for something that's going to hurt the public health and safety, although we just teach about how to live naturally, you know. So what happened is we got our home invaded.
Now, how did your supposed code violations come to the attention of county authorities?
County authorities told me, Joe Furman, the head, he said, we saw this on the History Channel on the television, because apparently they were watching me do a story, like a documentary on natural living. And so that's one thing he told me. Another thing he told me was that a neighbor supposedly had complained about us being able to build natural buildings and them not having the right to do that. So that's what they told me anyway.
So the officials actually were watching the History Channel, and that's how they got tipped off, along with the resident who was more or less jealous that you were building structures not according to standard code?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like our buildings are built where you just walk out in the forest with an axe, and you select a tree, you cut it down, and you cut the limbs off of it. You make the building by hand. So that's the way we make our buildings, and modern world doesn't do that anymore. And so it's apparently, as far as I'm learning, illegal to build a building on the American heritage pattern that all of our ancestors did forever and ever. In fact, all human beings through all time have done in all cultures and continents.
Eustace, you described the officials who targeted the Turtle Island as small men with limited vision. Do they find themselves threatened by people who promote self-reliance and independent living?
It's hard for me to evaluate the deep psychology of those men, but as far as I can tell, they're threatened by anybody that doesn't fit into their perfect paragraph on their black and white, crisp, clean page. You know, it's not a matter of reality. It's sort of, in my mind, a fantasy that they want everybody in the whole world to fit into a cookie-cutter mold that's severely limiting. To me, that's severely debilitating. So apparently I'm a problem for them, and obviously they're a problem for me. Seems like it might be better if people just got along and had a little freedom. I kind of remember American having this base note of freedom being part of the whole plan, but I'm not finding it.
Now, the ostensible reason for the raid was a building code violation, but isn't there reason to believe that the real estate developers connected to the county government actually have designs on your land?
You know, a lot of people have told me that, and I keep it open as a possibility. I don't really know. I really think there's something going on behind the scenes, so I believe that, but I haven't been able to put my finger on the pulse of exactly what it is. But it's obviously ought not to be for public health and safety, because everybody that comes there is healthier and safer than if they're anywhere else in this country. So something is decidedly wrong with this picture. I couldn't tell you if it's real estate developers or not, but that's definitely been speculated.
During recent years, there have been several examples of city or county officials using code violations as a pretext to destroy front yard gardens. Do you think there's a general crackdown underway against people who are seeking self-sufficiency?
I'm really not sure. I don't go out of the forest very often. I live way back in the forest and don't see news. I haven't watched television in 33 years, and so I can't tell you about a bigger pattern, but as far as I can tell from my own little experience, if you do anything that doesn't fit into the black and white mold of government control, you definitely are outside of the okay mark.
Now, I believe it's ironic that you're having trouble with bureaucrats in Boone County, which is named after the legendary frontiersman. Eustace, how did America become a country in which it's supposedly illegal to erect frontier-style buildings on your own property?
I don't know how in the world. It's hard for me to believe. You know, basically, if you can't make your own building on your own land, especially if you have hundreds and hundreds of acres like I do, miles and miles from someone else, it seems very strange that we can't appreciate and continue with that ancient American tradition. Basically, I'm keeping alive the tradition and wanting to keep alive my freedom. So it happened while I was back in the woods, you know. It's just apparently caught up with me.
Now, when they came to your property, did they come with any threats or any raid tactics, SWAT or guns in any capacity?
A couple of the men were armed, for sure, and they threatened criminal charges. Even before they came with the raid, they threatened criminal charges, seemingly because I simply asked a question in the letter: why do you have to hire specialists to come and inspect our buildings? Can't the county, with the people in your department and the planning and inspections, do a good job of that? And the next thing I got was a letter threatening criminal charges, and that's when I thought, my gosh, what is this all about?
Were there any federal authorities accompanying the county?
No, I believe the federal authorities might have better intelligence about it. In fact, even the people in the state have been a lot more amenable to understanding the value of keeping alive American heritage and historic buildings and teaching about sustainability and organic, valuable, renewable resources. But the county people, basically they're saying even our dog houses have to have indoor plumbing, electricity, and a sprinkler system. You know, it's beyond bizarre.
Now, why is your case important to all Americans, and what can people do to help your cause?
Well, I'd have to ask you a question. If Americans care about freedom, I don't think our case couldn't be important. Basically, if people want freedom, even a tiny vestige of it, we better look at a case like this and do something about it. Certainly don't overlook it. I mean, here we are. Like I made a potty for my 82-year-old mom to be able to get up in the middle of the night and urinate beside the bed so she didn't have to go to the bathroom, and I'm getting faced with criminal charges. I mean, whenever it gets that far, I believe the common citizens better pay attention and please do something about it.
What can people do to directly help you in this effort? To help raise awareness for what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, in the bigger picture, I think they can just wake up and think, like pay attention, listen to this story, ask questions about their own life. What freedoms do they have or what freedoms do they not have? We have a web page at our nonprofit education center, this home that's being attacked, and I think it can direct you to some of the young people like have made a Facebook. We've got the web page turtleislandpreserve.org, and somehow you might find out about a Facebook for Turtle Island or Eustace Conway. And some of the young people that are outraged at being attacked as an education center are making it available for people to know more about it, to send donations or write letters to the government and say, we want to take care of Turtle Island. We think American heritage is important. And so
you're finding that there is now a groundswell of grassroots support that is coming to raise awareness for your efforts and to defend the defend the charges?
Yeah, the young people, when they hear about this, they realize that this is such an important case because it so well establishes how we've lost the freedom to do the most basic aspects of human existence. I mean, it's a human rights violation. I believe it's a constitutional rights violation. And the young people, when they hear about this, they're really concerned, and so they're doing some grassroots movement to communicate so that basically we can work not just on helping Turtle Island, but helping the whole awareness of freedom or lack of freedom in this country. A lot of people still care about it, and I'm really moved and motivated to find out that some young people are still awake enough to do something about it.